Have you ever noticed how your life quietly bends toward the things you think about most? Not in a mystical, wish upon a star kind of way, but in the subtle patterns that repeat themselves when no one is watching. You think you'll be disappointed, and somehow disappointment arrives right on time. You expect someone to leave, and slowly they do. Yet there are others who walk through the world expecting good fortune, and opportunities seem to lean in their direction, as if they are being quietly escorted by something unseen. It makes you wonder, is life happening to you, or is life responding to you? Imagine a child who grew up always hearing, "Be careful, don't expect too much, life is hard." Their mind becomes a room with low ceilings. They walk carefully, speak softly, dream cautiously. Their world shrinks to the size of their belief. Now imagine another child, one who is told, "Try, explore, there is room for you in this world." There, imagination stretches like warm light. Their steps are bold, their voice steady. Both children walk into adulthood believing they are simply being realistic. But in truth, they are living the echoes of beliefs planted long before they knew they were believing anything at all. This is the quiet psychology behind manifestation, not magic, not wishful thinking, but the mind's incredible ability to filter the world in ways that confirm what you already expect. Your brain is always listening to you. If you think people are untrustworthy, you will notice every flaw, every hesitation, every crack in loyalty. If you believe opportunities never come, you will overlook them even when they stand in front of you. Your beliefs shape your perception. Your perception shapes your behavior. And your behavior shapes your outcomes. The cycle completes itself without ever announcing that it has begun. There is someone out there right now with half your talent, half your skill, half your intelligence living a life you believed was too big for you, not because they are luckier, but because they permitted themselves to believe it was possible. The forces shaping your life are not distant. They are intimate. They begin in the quiet corners of your thoughts, in the stories you tell yourself when no one can hear. And perhaps the most haunting question is this: if your mind has been shaping your reality all along without your awareness, without your intention, then what reality have you unknowingly created? And more importantly, what could your life become if you chose differently from this moment forward? Have you ever wondered when you first learned what you were allowed to hope for? It didn't happen in a classroom or during a conversation you consciously remember. It happened quietly, long before you knew what belief even meant. You were a child, watching the world with wide and unguarded eyes. Every tone of voice, every sigh of disappointment, every moment of silence after you spoke it, all became part of your internal weather. A child doesn't just observe love or rejection, they absorb it, like skin soaking in sunlight or frost. Picture a child drawing with bright colours, proudly turning to show their creation. If the parent smiles, if they kneel down, if they say, "That's beautiful, keep going," something blooms. The child learns that their ideas have value, that expression is welcome, that the world responds to them with warmth. Now picture another child, same colours, same hope for recognition, but when they turn around, the adult barely looks up, or worse, they laugh, dismiss, or compare. Something in the child wilts. Not suddenly, not dramatically, but slowly, like a plant deprived of light. The message settles quietly. Your voice is too small. Your dreams are too loud. The world is not waiting for you. This is how self-concept forms, not as a choice, but as an inheritance. A child doesn't think, "They ignored me because they are stressed or distracted." A child thinks, They ignored me because I am not worth noticing. And that belief becomes the blueprint. The mind begins shaping reality around it, building walls where there should have been doors, ceilings where there could have been sky. Neuroscience tells us that the emotional experiences of childhood carve deep grooves in the developing brain. The nervous system learns which feelings are safe, which expressions are dangerous, which hopes are allowed. And long after childhood ends, those patterns remain. You grow older, but you continue to manifest the world you were conditioned to expect. Not the world you want, the world you believe you deserve. So when someone tells you to just think positive or believe in yourself, they are speaking to the adult mind. But the one who actually chooses your possibilities is the child still living inside you, the one who learned what to reach for and what to never attempt. And this is where the story of manifestation becomes more than mindset. It becomes a return to the origin, to the moment where belief first took shape. Because if your beliefs were learned, then they can be rewritten, and that changes everything. Have you ever wondered why you shrink in moments when you need to rise? Why, when a door finally opens, something inside you hesitates, as if stepping forward would be a kind of betrayal? This is the quiet inheritance of childhood beliefs. You don't leave them behind when you grow up. You simply learn to disguise them. You build a personality, a mask, shaped around the things you once feared, lacked, or learned to suppress. And you tell yourself, this is just who I am. But identity is often a survival strategy, wearing the costume of self. You learn to smile, so no one sees your hunger for validation. You learn to act confident, so no one hears the tremor beneath your voice. You learn to become agreeable, gentle, apologetic, even when something in your chest is begging to breathe. The world sees your mask and assumes it is your face. But you know the truth. Underneath, there is a child still negotiating how much space they are allowed to take. And so, you choose people who fit the beliefs you already carry. If you secretly believe you are unworthy of being prioritized, you will find yourself drawn to those who make you an option. If you believe your voice is too much, you will love those who silence it. If you believe happiness cannot last, you will unconsciously sabotage it the moment it feels real. Not because you are broken, but because the mind longs for the familiar, even when the familiar is painful. It's the same phenomenon seen in the bird raised in a cage. One day, the door opens. Freedom is right there, light, sky, infinite space. But the bird doesn't fly. It returns to the only world it has ever known. The cage is not metal. The cage is memory. And manifestation works the same way. Not as a wish sent into the universe, but as a reflection of what you believe you are allowed to receive. You do not manifest with your hopes, you manifest with your self-concept. The person who believes they are unworthy of abundance will never recognize abundance when it stands quietly at their door. The person who believes they are meant to struggle will reject ease when it arrives, calling it suspicious, unrealistic, or undeserved. Your life does not bend to what you want, it bends to what you are. And so the question shifts. Who are you beneath the mask you learned to wear? If you removed the fear, the memory, the wound, who might you become if you finally believed you could? Have you ever wondered why, once something captures your attention, you suddenly start seeing it everywhere? A car you've never noticed before becomes visible on every street. A fear you've tried to ignore begins appearing in every situation. This isn't coincidence. This is your brain revealing one of its oldest, most powerful mechanisms, the reticular activating system. A small network of neurons at the base of your brainstem that decides what you notice and what remains hidden in the background. It is the silent gatekeeper of your reality. Your mind cannot process everything at once, so it filters, And what does it prioritize? Whatever matches your beliefs. If you believe people are untrustworthy, your RAS highlights every flinch, every hesitation, every inconsistency in others. If you believe life is generous, it draws your attention toward opportunities, kindness, and subtle blessings. The world does not change, your filter does. This is why two people can walk through the same city, live through the same day, and return with completely different stories. One will say, "Nothing works out for me." The other will say, "There is always something to learn." Reality is not just what happens, it is what your mind decides to see. Psychology calls this confirmation bias, the tendency to notice and remember experiences that confirm what you already believe. It is not a flaw, it is the brain's attempt to make the world feel predictable. But predictability comes with a cost. If your beliefs were shaped by fear, rejection, or scarcity, your mind will continue recreating those patterns long after the original wound has healed. And then there is the self-fulfilling prophecy. When you expect failure, your body language shifts, your voice becomes smaller, your decisions become cautious. You don't notice the door half open, because you've already convinced yourself it's locked. And so the failure you feared becomes the result you live. Not because the world denied you, but because your belief denied you the attempt. Neuroscience extends this further. Neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated thought. Every time you think a thought, you strengthen its pathway, like walking the same trail through a field of tall grass. The more you walk it, the clearer and more automatic it becomes. Your thoughts are not just ideas, they are instructions. They are architecture. This is why manifestation is not magic. It is structure. It is the progression of the unseen becoming seen. Focus shapes what you notice. What you notice shapes how you feel. How you feel shapes what you do. And what you do shapes what you become. So the question is no longer, does manifestation work? The real question is, what have you unknowingly been instructing your mind to build all this time? Have you ever noticed how some people seem to recreate the same pain over and over again? The same kind of heartbreak, the same kind of disappointment, the same endings dressed in different faces. At first, it feels like bad luck, like fate has a personal grudge. But if you look closer, painfully closer, you begin to see something haunting underneath. Not everything you lose was taken from. Some of it you pushed away without realizing it. And not every door that remains closed is locked. Some of them you never tried to open. Because when your beliefs are shaped by fear, by old wounds, by the quiet whisper that says you are not enough, manifestation takes a darker form. You begin to attract what you expect. You start to gravitate toward what is familiar, even if the familiar hurts. The person who grew up unseen will choose lovers who overlook them. The one who grew up walking on emotional eggshells will find themselves in relationships where they must stay small to survive. The one who fears abandonment will cling until the other person leaves, fulfilling the very fate they were trying to avoid. The mind becomes its own puppeteer, pulling your strings with memories you didn't choose. There is a voice inside you, the inner critic shaped long ago by someone who didn't know how to love you properly. And now that voice speaks in your tone, using your breath, convincing you that every good thing is temporary, that every joy has a cost, that every soft moment is the beginning of the end. So you brace yourself, you flinch at happiness. You sabotage beginnings because endings feel safer. After all, if you ruin something yourself, at least you won't be surprised when it breaks. This is the dark side of manifestation. You don't manifest what you want. You manifest what you believe you deserve. If deep down, beneath your confidence and your humor and your carefully put together life, you still believe you are unworthy, then the world will rearrange itself to mirror that belief. Not because the world is cruel, but because the mind is obedient. And here is the quiet tragedy. People don't fear change. They fear the version of themselves they would need to become in order to hold something good, to step into a life where love stays, where opportunities open, where peace feels natural. You must first step away from the familiar shadows that once protected you. But the mind clings to the cage it knows. Which leads us to the next question, the one that cannot be avoided. Who taught you to choose pain over possibility, and why did you listen? Have you noticed how the world teaches you to measure yourself by everything outside of you? Your value becomes something you must prove through success, through beauty, through productivity, through how well you can perform the role of someone who is doing fine. From a young age, you are taught that your worth is not something you inherently possess. It is something you must earn, display, and constantly defend. You grow up in a society that whispers, if you have more, you are more. More followers, more money, more admiration, more achievements, stacked like trophies on a shelf that never feels full. And so you chase. Not because the chase brings meaning, but because slowing down would mean confronting the silent fear that without accomplishment, you might not matter at all. This is the cultural trap. A world built on comparison is a world built on insecurity. You look at others not to understand them, but to understand what is lacking in yourself. You scroll through images of curated lives, edited happiness, carefully filtered excellence, and somewhere inside, a quiet voice begins to say, you are behind. But behind what? Behind whom? There is no finish line, yet you feel like you are losing a race that never had rules, never had purpose, never had meaning except the meaning we were conditioned to give it. Capitalism thrives on dissatisfaction. If you believed you were already enough, you would be harder to sell to. If you felt whole, you wouldn't need to buy anything to complete yourself. And so the system teaches you to want endlessly, a hunger without nourishment, a thirst without water. You manifest not from abundance, but from lack, not from belief, but from desperation. And desperation bends your life into the shapes of your fears. Psychology calls this the scarcity mindset, the quiet expectation that there is not enough love, not enough time, not enough space in the world for you to exist without proving that you deserve to be here. And so your manifestations become pleas instead of expressions. You ask the universe for things you secretly believe you cannot hold. And life mirrors back that belief, again and again. But there is another truth hiding beneath all this noise. A truth that is older than achievement, older than society, older than every story you were told about what makes you worthy. Before you were taught to chase worth, you simply were worthy. So the journey of manifestation is not about reaching outward, it is about turning inward and remembering. And now, the real question emerges. What happens when you stop performing for the world and start returning to yourself? Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, life somehow slips through your fingers? Like you are walking with your hands open, hoping for something to finally stay, but everything good fades just when you start to trust it. There is a specific kind of pain in always expecting disappointment. A quiet dread that sits under your ribs, whispering, "Don't get too comfortable. This won't last." You carry it with you in conversations, in friendships, in love. Even in moments of joy, something inside you flinches. You're waiting for the fall, the shift, the moment the world remembers you were never meant to keep something this beautiful. And so you hold back. You don't fully celebrate. You don't fully receive. You live almost, but not quite. This is the emotional cost of living from old beliefs. Anxiety becomes your background noise. Self-doubt lives like a shadow at your feet. You apologize before you speak. You soften your desires until they are small enough not to offend anyone. And when something goes wrong even slightly, you don't just feel disappointment. You feel confirmation. As if the universe is telling you, yet again, see, you were foolish to hope. Psychology calls this learned helplessness. When you've been hurt enough times, the mind concludes that effort is pointless, that hope is dangerous. And so the heart grows cautious. You begin to expect life to happen to you, not through you. You move like a passenger inside your own story, never holding the steering wheel, never trusting your hands to guide the path. And the loneliness that comes with this is quiet, but devastating. It is not the loneliness of being alone. It is the loneliness of being surrounded by people and still feeling like no one can reach you. Because how can they, when even you don't truly open the door? How can they, when you don't fully believe you deserve to be seen? There comes a moment, sometimes sudden, sometimes gradual, when the weight becomes impossible to ignore. You look around and realize the bars of the cage were never built by the world. They were built by fear, by memory, by a younger version of you who was only trying to stay safe. The prison was internal. The lock was belief. And in that moment, something shifts, not loudly, but like the first crack in ice. A realization that hurts, but also liberates. If the mind was powerful enough to build the cage, then it may also be powerful enough to open it. And that is where the story of change begins. Have you ever asked yourself who you might be if you weren't afraid? Not in a dramatic sense, but quietly. If you removed every memory that made you shrink, every voice that told you to lower your expectations, every lesson that taught you to settle, who would remain? This question is not about fantasy. It is the doorway to transformation. Because change does not begin when your circumstances shift. It begins when your identity does. The first step is awareness, not the loud, motivational kind, but the soft, honest noticing of the thoughts that move inside you. You begin to see how automatic they are. The way you apologize before you even inconvenience someone. The way you brace yourself when something good happens. The way your mind rehearses worst-case scenarios like a script it has memorized too well. These are not reflections of who you are, they are echoes of who you were taught to be. And once you see them, truly see them, something subtle changes. The autopilot loosens. You begin to ask, what if this belief is not mine? What if I inherited it? And just like that, a door you did not notice before appears. Transformation is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering the parts of yourself you abandoned to survive. Psychology shows that the brain does not distinguish well between imagination and lived experience. When you visualize a future self, not vaguely, but with texture, emotion, breath, your brain begins wiring that identity as if it already exists. This is not wishful thinking. It is memory rehearsal for a reality you are moving toward. You are teaching your mind how to recognize a life it has never lived before. But visualization alone is not enough. The world changes when your actions align with the identity you are growing into. Not massive leaps, not dramatic reinventions, small, consistent choices. Speaking a boundary softly instead of swallowing your voice. Applying even when you fear rejection. Allowing yourself to receive a compliment without deflecting. These are not small acts. They are declarations. I am becoming someone who believes I deserve to exist fully. And perhaps the most difficult part, patience. Identity does not rewrite itself in one sunrise. The old beliefs will try to return because they are familiar. The shadow of who you once were will tug at your ankle. But every day you make a choice, even a subtle one, you loosen the thread that ties you to your past. And eventually, one day, without noticing, you will breathe differently. You will speak differently. You will walk into a room and not shrink. You will recognize yourself. And when that day comes, the world will not have changed. You will. Who are you when no one is looking? Not the version you present, not the name you answer to, not the role you play in other people's stories. Who are you beneath the expectations, beneath the history, beneath the mask you learn to hold still? Because life, your life, is always asking you one question. Who do you believe yourself to be? Everything you have ever reached for, everything you have ever turned away from, every door you dared to knock on, every joy you quietly rejected before it could reject you, all of it began with the image you held of yourself. The world did not shape that image. The world merely reflected it back to you, over and over, until you mistook the reflection for truth. But manifestation was never about wanting. It was never about closing your eyes and wishing. The universe would bend in your favor. Life is not persuaded by longing. It is moved by identity. You do not receive what your voice asks for. You receive what your nervous system believes it can hold. And that belief is ancient. It began with a child who once looked to the world for recognition and learned either safety or fear. But you are not that child anymore. You carry their memories, yes. You carry their wounds, yes. But you also carry their untouched possibilities, the parts of them that never had the chance to grow. So look at your life gently, not as a map of failure or success, but as a record of belief. You were never cursed. You were never unlucky. You were operating from scripts you didn't even know you were repeating. And the moment you see the script, truly see it, you are no longer bound to it. The world around you is not asking you to fight harder, to chase louder, to prove more. It is asking you to remember that worth is not earned, that hope is not naive, that the sky you learned to fear was always open. You are allowed to rewrite the way you see yourself, not all at once, not perfectly, but gradually, like dawn easing into the horizon. You teach your mind to recognize abundance by allowing yourself to feel deserving of it. You teach your heart to stay open by letting joy linger a moment longer than fear tells you it should. You step forward as if your life is already expanding, and slowly it does. Because in the end, manifestation is not magic, it is recognition. You are not calling something new into your life. You are remembering something ancient within you. You do not manifest what you want. You manifest what you are.